Welcome to the Dynasty Sleeper Podcast, your home for all things Dynasty Fantasy Football. Please subscribe, rate, and review.
What is up? How's everyone doing on this lovely Sunday morning? I'm still a little shook after watching TJ Dillashaw get knocked out in like 30 seconds last night. It was maybe a little bit of an early stoppage, but man, I was pretty disappointed for TJ. Anyways, few housekeeping notes before we get into this video. First, what you can expect from this channel going forward is we will get through all 32 teams and each dynasty relevant players buy, sell, hold style before the NFL draft, and we'll also mix in some rookie content as well. Probably a lot of rookie content actually. And I've been busy with work, but things are slowing down for me lately, so I'll have a lot more free time, so that means expect probably a couple videos a week from here on out. Also, some of my league mates might jump on with me in the future, and the production quality will get better in time, hopefully. Although in the Vikings video, I just put together highlight clips of the players we were talking about, but going forward from here, we are just going to focus on the audio, and eventually you'll be able to find us on iTunes, on Apple Podcasts and stuff. The highlights in that Vikings one, it broke some copyright rules, so in the meantime, I think I'm just going to leave them out, maybe find some other relevant clips in future videos. I have a couple ideas, stay tuned, but like I said, we're just going to focus on audio and get the content out for now. So, with all that being said, let's get into today's video, buy, sell, hold for the Green Bay Packers. And before we get into the players, we gotta talk about the new coaches. The additions of Matt LaFleur and Nathaniel Hackett, real talk, I really like these hires. In my opinion, they both make the most out of what they got, and the jury may still be out on LaFleur, but with that statement, I give him a pass in Tennessee. If you take a step back and understand why LaFleur was such a rising star candidate in the first place, essentially he had a hell of a pedigree. He spent several years as an assistant with Kyle Shanahan, most notably as a quarterback coach for Matt Ryan during his MVP campaign, and from there he worked under Sean McVay with the Rams during Jared Goff's breakout, and there's no better way to be the hot new thing than work with the two previous ones. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out in Tennessee right away though. Mariota's completion percentage ballooned to a career high 68.9%, but he still only had 11 touchdown passes and 8 interceptions. He did miss some time with injuries, and the team finished only 9-7, matching their record from last year. If you're looking for positives, there are some though. The Titans got off to a slow start, but they sparked after the bye. They finished kinda strong. They went on a 6-3 stretch at the end there and showcased their improved running ability, particularly with Derrick Henry. We all know how that worked out. And as a team, they rushed for 2,023 yards at 4.5 per clip, which was an improvement from 2017. Another point is Kyle Shanahan-type systems notoriously take 2 years to develop. So maybe if LaFleur stayed with the Titans going into this year and Mariota actually had feeling in his arm, they would perform like some people thought they might. And then we have Nathaniel Hackett joining LaFleur, which I think is a match made in heaven. His Jags offense in 2017 was low-key one of the best in the league. He got let go mid-season in 2018, but I feel that was mainly due to the struggles of Leonard Fournette and Blake Bortles. But speaking of Bortles and his awfulness, he really got the most out of him in prior years, and that, my friends, is no easy task. Hackett almost made Bortles look like a franchise quarterback, but regardless, Hackett is experienced and football is in his blood. His father, Paul Hackett, who Mike McCarthy actually worked for at the University of Pittsburgh and Kansas City. So long story short, I think the Packers offense will get back to that top tier with these guys, specifically in the running game. LaFleur has said his priority is offensive line, and if you look at the 2018 run percentage, Tennessee was ranked 2nd in the league, whereas Green Bay was 32nd. Aaron Jones is going to eat. Spoiler alert, he's a buy for me. But first, let's get into quarterback with Aaron Rodgers, and it isn't a coincidence that 3 different QBs had their best statistical years when LaFleur was directly involved with them. I think Rodgers is a good buy low right now. A lot of people are down on him after this year and think the decline has started, but nah, I believe that this will be his worst season in the next 2 to 3. He was playing with a bum knee all year too, by the way. The Packers were very hush-hush about this. But anyways, the more a quarterback can do, the more LaFleur and Hackett can think of. And the more a quarterback can handle, the more Hackett is going to give him. Rodgers is one of the best in the game, and him and Hackett will be dangerous, I believe. I think the Packers will give the Bears their money's worth for the division. Next year, I feel it'll go Packers, Bears, Vikings, Lions. As much as it pains me to say, but that means ARod is back and I'm trying to acquire him for a second round pick or later type value if I'm contending in a one quarterback league. With all that being said, I'm not giving up a late first for Rodgers. That's still too much for me. He is 35 after all, but I would not be surprised to see him play till he's 40. I'd hold him for another year at least if you have him. And then we have DeShone Kizer, and there really isn't much to say. In my opinion, he did not look good in week 17 or in his debut beginning of the year. I'd sell for anything you can get probably, and drop in other formats if there's another guy on the waiver wire I like more. However, he is only 23, and if they don't draft a backup quarterback in the draft, which I think they might, I'm kind of intrigued. So maybe hold until the draft, see what they do before you drop him at least. And if you follow him on Twitter, you'll see that he does make some damn good ramen noodles. So there's that. But let's go on to the running backs. And I mentioned my hype for Aaron Jones earlier. He is a buy. In this class, I'd give up the 105 rookie pick and later for him. The only concern here is his injury history, and the question is still out if he can handle a full season's workload. But in this offense and the talk about improving the offensive line, he should be able to get at least 15 touches a game. And that is conservative, I feel like. But can he hold up is the question. So maybe they don't want to get him more than 15 touches, but I think with just 15, he can be an RB1 any given week. He can catch passes, and his pass protection is decent enough. Aaron Jones, he just passes the eye test. And one of McCarthy's biggest criticisms was not using him enough. He's actually my 12th ranked Dynasty RB, and I'll just read him real quick so you guys can get an idea. Saquon, Gurley, Zeke, CMC, Kumerow, Gordon, Chubb, Mixon, Cook, DJ, Connor. Then I have Aaron Jones. Right behind him at 13 is Le'Veon, so you could say I'd trade Le'Veon for Jones straight up. If we were talking about wide receivers, I'd trade the likes of DJ Moore, Landry, Ridley, Cooper Kupp, etc. for Jones. But if you were talking about someone like T.Y. for Jones, I think I'd rather have T.Y. So that is probably my range, although as I'm saying that right now, I'm kind of having second thoughts. That's a close one, but that's my range though. Either way, I think he's going to have a hell of a year if he can stay healthy. He also just turned 24, so he's still young. I like him a lot. So yeah, I'd try to buy him if he doesn't break the bank, and I would only consider selling him if the offer contained at least 2 firsts and then something extra. But moving on to Jamaal Williams. Now with Jamaal, I've never really been a big fan, but I would be lying if I said he didn't finish the season strong after Aaron Jones went down with that knee injury, and he's proved to be more durable than Jones. And your best ability is your availability. And he's a pretty decent backup running back as far as backup running backs go. If I don't own Aaron Jones, I'm not really interested in him, but if I am the Aaron Jones owner, I would be looking to handcuff, and I would pay a mid to late second round rookie pick to acquire him. But like I said, if I am not the Aaron Jones owner, then I would be looking to sell him, specifically for a second round rookie pick or a player of similar value. If Jones does end up missing time next year, Jamaal Williams will have value, so some guys might be willing to take a chance on that. But let's move on to Kappri Bibbs, and yeah, if I owned Kappri Bibbs, I'd post something like this in the group message board. Whoever sends me an offer first for Kappri Bibbs, I'll accept, because I'm willing to take damn near anything, and I would drop him if there's another guy on the waiver wire I like more. Moving on to the wide receivers, we have DeVante Adams. And he's probably untouchable for many people, but if the DeVante Adams owner in your league doesn't value him as a top 5 dynasty receiver, then you gotta make a move. It's gonna take at least 3 firsts to get him probably, and a lot of people wouldn't even trade him for picks alone. Valdes-Scantling and St. Brown showed potential, but it was DeVante Adams and no one else at wide receiver all year for the Packers. They need a legit number 2 wide receiver, and one of those guys needs to take a step up. But Adams is just getting into his prime, and with the direction I think this offense is going to go next year, with Rodgers having a bounce-back season, Adams might have a career year, which is high praise because he already had 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns this year. But I believe Randall Cobb, he will not be back with the Packers in 2019. He is an unrestricted free agent right now, and those targets have to go somewhere, even though, I mean, there wasn't really a lot of them to go around. And with a healthy Geronimo, and if MVS and EQ improve, they'll cut into the targets a little bit too. But I think the offense as a whole will get more first downs, more scoring opportunities, and most of that is going to go through DeVante Adams. So for most people, he's a strong hold, but I would be looking to buy him if I had a team where I could afford a player like DeVante. And it'll probably take 3 firsts, but it's something I'm willing to do. And we briefly mentioned Randall Cobb's name there. He's a hold for me if I own him. I want to see where he goes in the offseason, and then I'll make my decision based off that. Because right now, there's really no value for him. And if he goes to a new team, and a couple nice RotoWire blurbs come out over the offseason, then some hype might start to build back up for him. He is only 28 after all, but he has a lot of wear and tear. There is a chance the Packers re-sign him because they don't have a true slot wide receiver, and they have plenty of cap space and money to spend this offseason, so they might be interested in bringing him back on a 1 or 2 year deal for substantially a smaller amount of money. But I really believe that they will let him walk because Geronimo and MVS can be decent number 2 wide receivers, and I think EQ will transition to the slot, so they really don't need him no more. So we gotta hold on to Cobb for the time being and see what happens to him this offseason. So first, let's move on to Geronimo and talk about him. And he is a restricted free agent, whereas Randall Cobb was an unrestricted. I'm fairly certain they will bring Geronimo Allison back. A lot of people don't realize he was playing exceptionally well before he got hurt in 2018. I believe he absolutely can be a number 2 wide receiver if he stays healthy all year next year. I don't see how MVS has shown more. Not saying eventually he won't become better than Allison, but I think Geronimo Allison runs better routes and is better at circus contested catches. Geronimo was on pace for over 1,000 yards this year and 8 touchdowns before he got injured, like we said, and his chemistry with Rodgers is better than MVS or EQSB or anyone else other than Adams, for that matter. And with a quarterback like Rodgers, that means a lot. Now, he is a bit heavy-footed, but I think he's only beginning to tap into his route running abilities, and he's really starting to use his size to his advantage. That throw and catch in the back of the end zone in the first game against the Bears, that was just amazing to watch. I think he can do damage against second and third corners of opposing teams. If I own Geronimo, I'm holding on to him, but if I don't, I'm looking to buy for a late second round pick, if that's what it takes. But I'm really targeting Geronimo for like an early third. I feel like most people are sleeping on him and would rather have Valdes-Scantling or St. Brown, and they're going to be disappointed. I think Geronimo will outproduce both of them next year, as long as he can stay healthy. Moving on to Marquez Valdes-Scantling, only the coolest name in the NFL. That is, of course, until our boy Lil Jordan gets drafted this year. But Valdes-Scantling, we call him MVS for short, he really flashed at different points this year. But there are also moments where he completely disappeared, and that's to be expected from a rookie. He was pretty inconsistent, and it was actually Equanimeous St. Brown that showed the more steady improvement as the season went on. But because of those big games early on, I feel like it stuck with people more. And if I own MVS and someone is really drinking the Kool-Aid, I would sell him for a first round pick, any first round pick. You saw him struggle with drops later in the season, and I don't think he ever really built that chemistry with Rodgers, and either did EQSB for that matter. But EQ is younger, and like I said, he showed the better improvement as the season went on. The best trait about Valdes-Scantling is his ridiculous speed after 10 yards. It's just ridiculous. One of the best, probably, in the league. But I feel that's all he is a deep threat with subpar hands. So I think he's being overrated right now, and I'd be looking to sell. Try to get a late first-round rookie pick. I believe it'll be Adams and Geronimo on the outside with EQ in the slot. So that really limits the opportunities for Valdes-Scantling. If you can't get a late first, then I'd try for an early 2020 second. But if I don't own him, I'm not trying to buy. I would rather buy Equanimeous St. Brown, mostly for 3 different reasons. Number 1, he is cheaper than Valdes-Scantling. Number 2, he is younger than Valdes-Scantling. Number 3, he has shown more improvement than Valdes-Scantling. And I suppose 4 reasons. Number 4, I believe he will see the field more than Valdes-Scantling going into 2019, which I think mostly will be out of the slot. So I'd be looking to buy EQ for pretty much any 3rd round pick, and if it takes a mid to late second, I would really consider it. But I'd try to do a 3rd round pick and maybe package in another player or another 4th round rookie pick. But remember, EQ, he was highly touted going into the draft, and I believe he fell in the draft because there are some questions about his work ethic. But in that Lions game at the end of the year, he was running around, flying, diving, trying to make plays. I don't think his work ethic is a legitimate point to make against him anymore. The proof is in the pudding as we watched him improve over the year went on. And we kind of saw the opposite of Valdes-Scantling. EQ also looked more fundamentally sound with catching the ball. He just needs to fix some of his route issues, which I believe he will do. And if you remember, the Packers also have another rookie they drafted, Jmon, who I'm pretty sure the Packers drafted ahead of Valdes-Scantling and Equanimeous. But you really wouldn't know because you saw almost nothing from him the whole year. Wait, I lied. He fumbled the punt return. It seemed like from the very beginning, MVS and EQ passed him on the depth chart right away. His opportunities were extremely limited, but that's probably because of his play in practice. If it's a deep league and you're still rostering Jmon, you might as well hold on to him and hope for some nice roto blurbs in the offseason. But if you can get even a 4th, I'd sell. 4th or 5th round rookie pick, I'd probably drop him for something like Justin Watson, Chris Warren, etc. if they're on your waiver wire. Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of Jmon. So he's a sell/drop. I would rather roster Jake Kumerow. And if you remember, he might have been one of the most hyped players last preseason, but he injured his shoulder and that caused him to miss most of the year. So that was pretty disappointed. We really didn't get to see what he's all about. He had a nice touchdown catch at the end of the year. He's definitely a name you need to monitor going into this offseason. He will likely be behind Adams, Geronimo, MVS, and EQSB, but if any of them go down, he could fill in nicely. Everyone in the Packers organization was saying good things about him going into this year, but yeah, like I said, he got injured and we just never really saw it. So if he's looking good in OTAs, and if good news is coming out about him again, Kumerow will have value, and most Dynasty owners want a piece of this Packers passing game. You could easily flip him for a 3rd, or you might want to hold on to him. He has the potential to be the Adam Thielen of the Packers, but let's not get too carried away here. I'm just intrigued. If he's on your waiver wire, definitely pick him up. But if he's already owned, then maybe float out an offer for a 4th round rookie pick. With all that being said, I would not want to give a 3rd because I still feel that's a little too much since he's going to be 27. Pay attention to his name over the offseason at the very least. There is another wide receiver the Packers have, Allen Lazard, and I would treat him the same way I would Kappri Bibbs. I'd just float out a message in the group chat saying, first one to send me an offer for Lazard, I'll accept. Because you never know, maybe you'll get a 4th or 5th round rookie pick for him just because he's a wide receiver on the Packers. But I don't think he will be relevant. So monitor his name maybe, but I'd sell for anything and drop him if there's another guy I like over him on the waiver wire. He'll never get snaps over Geronimo, EQ, MVS, Kumerow. So last but not least, let's move on to the tight ends. And it's probably a sore subject for many Packers fans because Jimmy Graham, he was just the ultimate disappointment this year. There is some talk that the Packers may even cut him going into the year, but I mean, come on, be realistic. They aren't going to cut someone 1 year into a 3-year deal, especially someone like Jimmy Graham. I'd be looking to sell Jimmy Graham, so finding a buyer might be pretty challenging. But you could play it that he was injured last year, and with his new coaching staff, he'll be more productive, but I'm not buying it. He might possibly be the worst blocking tight end in the league, and he had so many drops this year. Like, granted, it's probably hard to catch with a broken thumb. He just never looked good the whole year. If you own him, this is probably your last chance to get out from under him. I'd really try to sell him before the draft because I believe that the Packers will target a tight end in the draft. They have 2 first-round picks, number 14, number 32, and I think they might go after one of the Iowa tight ends, Noah Fant or TJ Hawkinson. And if the Packers do that, then Graham's value will drop even lower. I would only consider holding on to him for another year if I was a win now team because the tight end landscape is so barren, and if I didn't have any decent tight ends other than Graham, then I mean, you gotta kind of hold on to him, but I doubt you're winning a championship with Jimmy Graham as your tight end. Graham's shining light maybe is the Packers, they don't really have anyone behind him. Mercedes Lewis and Lance Kendricks, they're unrestricted free agents. I don't think they'll be back. And then there's Robert Tonyan, which he's just a guy. He's a name to monitor over the offseason probably, but that's it. But like I said, I think they will draft a tight end in the draft, and that'll change things. I would also not be surprised if they add a tight end in free agency, because the Packers, they have a lot of cap space, and a couple free agents of interest at the tight end position is Tyler Eifert, Jared Cook, Max Williams, Jeff Hireman, Jesse James, and Ricky Seals-Jones. Any of those guys would outproduce Graham, in my opinion. And while we're talking about free agents, we might as well mention a couple wide receivers that the Packers could sign. Golden Tate, Jamison Crowder, Dante Moncrief, Tavon Austin, Chris Conley, Adam Humphries, Robbie Anderson, Tyrell Williams, Devin Funchess, Rashad Perryman, John Brown. I think they're set at wide receiver though with Geronimo and their young guys. So that pretty much wraps up today's episode, and I think the Packers, they're going to be a scary team next year. A lot of people are sleeping on them after their performance this year, but I would not be surprised to see them bounce back and rival the Bears for the division title. I'm excited to watch Rodgers, see what he can do with LaFleur and Hackett. I believe the run game will improve, and that'll open things up in the passing game. So I'll just run through my quick list here, TLDR style. Aaron Rodgers is a hold, buy low if you think they'll take the next step. Deshaun Kizer, he's a hold until the draft at least. Aaron Jones, buy. Jamaal Williams, handcuff if you're the Jones owner, sell if you're not. Kappri Bibbs, monitor or drop him. DeVante Adams, hold, buy if he's not valued top 5. Cobb, hold, see where he goes. Geronimo, I'm buying. MVS, sell. EQ, buy. Jmon Moore, sell. Jake Kumerow, buy or stash. Lazard, drop. Jimmy Graham, sell. And Tonyan, monitor over the offseason. So thanks guys for tuning in to another video, and like I said, there'll be more of these. I'll really start pumping them out over these next couple weeks. So thanks again, leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff. Peace.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Dynasty Sleeper Podcast. Tune in again next time for some of the best Dynasty fantasy football advice in the game. Free Tekashi 69.